But to kick off today's session, I will turn it over to James Maiden to introduce himself and moderate the rest of the panel.
Awesome. Thank you, Jinlin. Hi, everybody. First off, thank you all for joining us. Jinlin said the name, but I'm going to say it again because it's in the notes that she gave me, and I do whatever Jinlin tells me to do. But thank you all for attending this gold event. It's Know Your Worth, Navigate Job Offers, Promotions, and Benefits with Confidence. Such a big title for a really big topic, especially for this group. So, as she said, my name is James Maiden. I use he, him pronouns. I am the chair of the Gold Committee, that is graduates of the last decade. I am the vice president of leadership for the Alumni Governing Board. And my job, I actually work at McAllen Gordon Construction as the senior internal comms specialist. So, we have a really big, great conversation planned for today. But before we dig into that, I want to first thank the Alumni Association for supporting these professional development event opportunities, as well as working to provide a variety of free and lifetime benefits and resources to our alumni. So some of these resources actually involve a partnership with the UMKC Career Services. And from the Career Services, joining us today is Megan Rainey. She's the Associate Director of Learning and Development. Megan, how about you introduce yourself and share a little bit about the resources and opportunities that alumni can take advantage of?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm going to take this opportunity to share my screen as well. Okay. So as James mentioned, my name is Megan Rainey, and I'm one of the associate directors here at UMKC, and we are part of the Central Career Services team. And the reason I'm on the call today is one, to do maybe a little bit of a refresher, because I am going to bet that the Career Services office probably looks a lot different than it did when you guys were attending here. We have grown, expanded, and we have offered a couple of new services, and so I think it's important for you guys to all understand what resources our current students have available to them, but also as a reminder that our services didn't expire with graduation. And so we do still continue our services for alumni. So just to kind of kick it off, on campus, like I said, we are now the Central Services team is a robust team of 13. And then we even have a lot of partnership with our business school. So that's an additional 4 people to help support our students on campus. When I was first hired, and that was about almost 4 years ago, I was a part of a team of 3. And so we have grown quite a bit. And so I imagine if you have graduated longer than 5 years ago, just to have that kind of comfort and knowing that we have expanded so that we could offer our services. We've also, adopted some scholarship programs that are now part of this, things that help students with retention and leadership opportunities. And so just to kind of understand that the landscape of career opportunities for our students and for our alumni has absolutely grown. We're really proud of that, but we just like to, kind of remind people that, we are still here for you. When you want to work with our office, you can always schedule an appointment, and we have a kind of a canned list of appointments that we have available. And I wanted to kind of point out the ones that I think might be most beneficial, or the ones that I see alumni utilize the most. And so, yes, we have a list that you can kind of just click and choose from when you're, navigating our appointment portal. But just know that like having your resume reviewed every couple of years is highly, highly encouraged. Resumes should be considered like a living document. You need to be adding every one of your accomplishments, every one of your projects, every one of your committees, every one of your commitments, anything like that, just as something that you should always have evolving. So if you find yourself needing to pivot in your career, that way that document is just ready and up to date as needed. And we can also be the ones to have just that extra pair of eyes to kind of let you know what recruiters are telling us they're wanting to see, any shifts in the industry. And so that's just one of those things that we support. AI is a huge, huge tool right now that is impacting the resume. For better or worse, I would say some of the ones that I see are pretty apparently written by robots. And so we can help be that additional lens. ChatGPT likes to throw out some percentages that make absolutely no sense for a person's resume. So we always just want to be that additional, eyes on that page just to make sure that you're selling your best self over there. But the other ones I wanted to say that we offer is that you guys are going to be having these conversations about how to navigate, multiple offers, or maybe you're needing to consider when it's time to move or when it's time to consider other opportunities. If you want to know, how to have that conversation, how we can help support that conversation, we have that job offer and salary negotiation appointment type. And I don't want anyone to be held back just by our coach's availability. If you have a job offer on the table, that's sending us an email or picking up the phone and calling us. We will move mountains to make sure that we meet that, just because we know how time sensitive those conversations can be. And we also like to empower any candidate who's receiving offers to negotiate a timed response, meaning you get to have some time to consider your offer, you get to have some time and kind of figuring out when an appropriate response time can be. So that will give you enough time to schedule an appointment and sit down with someone so that we can review the entire offer with you and help, go over some additional, talking points that you'd like to consider. If you're wanting to know if you're changing fields or changing positions and you're like, well, do I need to get another degree for that? Or should I get a grad school? We have that conversations all the time. More often than not, we'll probably just lead you towards maybe one or two courses or a certification or something that can be offered. But if a different degree is what we recommend, then that's something that we make sure that you have at least all the information before you have to make such a big decision. The other things are just saying that, like, if you are an active job seeker, having a LinkedIn page is going to be pretty crucial. People always do look for that. And it's one of those things that if you don't quite know how to navigate it, because it is in fact a social media website, that means it's very, very triggered by algorithms, then just making sure that you are kind of playing towards those algorithms so that way the right kind of opportunities are presented to you, as well as the right people are seeing your page just based on the content that you put out there. So this is just a snapshot of the services that we offer. We don't want it to be so prescriptive that you have to choose from this page. If you just want to have a more general conversation, we're welcome to have those too. But these are going to be what you see in the drop-down list if you are actually scheduling it through our portal. That portal is called Handshake. That is our career management system. It is how we not only take appointments, receive appointments. It's like Zoom. It has the video capacity for alumni to have those online conversations, as well as just scheduling in-person meetings as well. It is a job board. It has a lot of positions, both our on-campus and off-campus ones. However, I will always add that caveat. Handshake is geared towards early talent. Most of the positions on there will require about 1 to 2 years of experience. So if I am working with an alumni who is looking for jobs for the, like after they've been in the field for a while, I'm going to probably encourage them to look at multiple job sites. And Handshake may have a couple of opportunities, but again, most of those, this was built for university students. So again, the majority of the positions on there are going to be for those that don't require, advanced experience. Something just keep in mind. Works great for our current students though. This is also where we will have a lot of our, where we host our career fairs. So as an alumni, you are welcome to attend our career fairs, and you could register through Handshake as well. It's helpful if you do that, because then you can see all of the employers that are coming and what they're hiring for. And that way you just kind of get the right information, making sure that you're on top of things that are available. So that picture on the left, that is one of our largest career fairs. We have their STEM career fair that happens in the fall and the spring. It's about 1,000 students, over 100 employers in this space. And like I said, alumni are welcome to attend. We also welcome the opportunity for, if you are interested in giving back to our students. We will need mentors for our networking groups. We have networking nights all the time. Any opportunity for you to kind of share what you've learned along the way. Or sometimes we have employers coming on campus just to do info sessions. And if you are interested in attending that, you're welcome to do that as well. But these are the just different things that will be promoted on Handshake, but our office kind of puts on throughout the year. And it's something that I think alumni should just be aware of, the different opportunities that are available to them. This is completely new because this position is actually just about 2 years old. We are now overseeing our manager of nationally competitive awards. And so if you have a hankering to go back to or to seek out an advanced degree or conduct research and want additional funds to help support that, maybe the nationally competitive awards might be the ones for you. These are the ones that you hear like Fulbright and Boren. They have a lot of prestige around them. So we have a full-time staff member who's there to help you navigate that application cycle, help you identify which award might be a good fit for you just based on what you're wanting to do. Really for the individual who might be a little bit more research minded or research oriented. And there's opportunities available for everybody. And that's all I have. I was kind of told to do like a quick and dirty rundown of the different services that we have. I'm happy to recap anything if there was any questions. But like I said, all of our appointments are available through Handshake. There's a link to that as on the alumni page as well as the career services page. And I think that's it.
That's
Thank you.
great. Yeah, thank you so much, Megan. Thanks for sharing all that. It's really great to know that there is a service out there that you all are there, especially in this like constantly changing landscape and how the job market is constantly fluctuating, that there's services out there that can easily help our alumni and even current students find what they need. I mean, the LinkedIn review, as somebody who sees a lot of LinkedIn's every day, it's exciting to know there's a service out there that can help some of these people that could really use it because it's hard, right? Especially as we continue to change and grow. So thank you so much, Megan. And Megan had talked with them. And I'm sure, Megan, if you want to drop any contact info in the chat as well, that might also be helpful to people. While she's doing that, let's pivot to the discussion at hand. Uh, I'm really thrilled to have a conversation with these three amazing HR professionals, all approaching the world of HR at different angles. So let's start off with some very quick introductions. We'll start off with Krista, we'll move to Lisa, and then Aaliyah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Krista Dickerson. I graduated from UMKC in 2002 and 2004. I got my bachelor's and my master's there. So long time ago, probably before some of you were born. And I am AVP of HR for a company called CortiCare. We do remote EEG monitoring. It is a small company. So everything from recruiting, talent acquisition, talent management, talent development all falls under me.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Fallscroft. I am the Senior Vice President of People Operations at the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. We're one of the largest community foundations in the nation, and I've been here for 14 years. I oversee HR and our project operations departments. And I'm also the president of the Alumni Association right now for UMKC. So I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all and support Gold.
And I'm Aaliyah Krasnowski. I'm the Senior HR Consultant over Compensation and Classification here at UMKC. I've been with the university for 8 years, and I graduated with my bachelor's in 2015. I'm working on my master's, but I oversee all classification, promotions, and anything to do with compensation. I do the annual merit process. I get to talk to people every day about increases and promotions. So I'm like the good news person here, which is fun. Glad to be here.
I was going to say, you must be everyone's favorite person when they get a meeting with you. Well, wonderful. You know, as you heard, so all of them have varying ranges of responsibilities and tasks. So I think we're going to have a really good, robust conversation. We're going to start, Aaliyah, with you. Job seekers right now are applying. There's hundreds of applications and other candidates. What are some things that somebody can do during the job search process to really help them stand out in the crowded field beyond the application process itself?
In my experience, before I started at the university, I was in retail sales for 7 years. When I left that job, I entered a field that I had not been in for 7 years. So I really started from scratch and looked at my resume and said, okay, what can I do and change that will translate to the field I'm trying to get into? At that time, I wanted to move into HR permanently. So I focused on highlighting my soft and hard skills that would translate over to HR more, that would be more relevant than what I had. When I was a sales manager, I sold cosmetics. And one of the things I highlighted on my resume was I hit this much, maybe 2 million in Armani cologne. That's not going to translate over to HR. So what I focused on was instead, I was able to recruit and retain 90% of my staff. I highlighted individuals that I was able to help get promoted. I highlighted situations or things that would be more relevant, employee relations, recruitment, compliance, that would be more relevant into the field I was trying to go to. So I think one, really making sure that you're highlighting a relevant experience towards the field you're trying to get into. Another thing that I totally underutilized when I was searching at that time was LinkedIn. LinkedIn is used heavily nowadays, and often what I see now with job people trying to interview or apply, their LinkedIn is not as updated. I think it's really important to make sure that you're updating your LinkedIn. It should kind of mirror what your resume is. There's a great tool right now where you can say that you're open to work. So it highlights to recruiters that you're looking for a job, responding to reach outs there. I didn't utilize that. So I had a rough time, and I think you'll have a lot more success there, updating it. And then the last thing is, it may not be a popular thing, but I think cover letters really help you stand out in a field of 50, 60 applicants. I know from my experience of being an HR business partner here at UMKC, at the end of the day, when it was time to pick applicants to move to the first round, I often would find the supervisor would be impressed and would pick individuals who included a cover letter. That is an easy way to explain yourself, give a background of what you want, what you're looking for. It kind of shows that you can write, you have personality, and it's not just a hard piece of paper where it just like, I did this at this time, it did this time. It's a good way to introduce yourself. So those are my 3 things.
Nice. You went from being everyone's favorite person in the room to breaking so many hearts saying that we have to write cover letters. But that is a really great segue. We're going to pivot to Lisa to kind of build on this. So resumes came up a lot in the questions that were asked by our attendees. What's one thing that you wish more job seekers knew about when they're writing their resumes or their cover letters to help them actually get noticed?
So that one is hard because there's no absolute answer here. Every hiring manager, every HR person is going to have their own preferences, their own things they look for, their own unconscious biases of what stands out in a resume or what they're looking for. And a lot of larger companies now are using AI, so they're not going to look at anything except for just keywords that are going to stick out. I work for a smaller company, and so we don't use AI. So we're actually looking at these, and we're hiring a lot right now. And so I'll just tell you things that kind of historically in my career have either really stood out, good or bad. And also just keep in mind, this is depressing because I have 4 kids that are college age that are looking at jobs and things like this. So I remember, and I know firsthand it takes a lot of time and effort to look for jobs. But I also know that a recruiter, the first blush that they do is 6 to 7 seconds that they're going to spend on your resume. And so it is trying to find that, balance of how can you stand out but not stand out too much, where if I just look at a resume and there's so much stuff, I'm just checked out because it's one of 1,000 things I have to do. And so it's tricky. So definitely shout out to career services. I had that as my college job for 3 years in college. So I would definitely utilize them to help you with any of this stuff. But here's the good and bad. So ensure there are no typos. Get somebody to look that over and then look it over again, and then have somebody else look it over, because that stands out like a sore thumb. Make sure that you create and upload a PDF so that there's no formatting issues when you upload it to their applicant tracking system, or ATS if you're in HR. So they're going to, it's going to be uploaded, but if it's Word, it still sometimes looks wonky, just depending upon the person that's receiving it's what they have, what version they have. For jobs that require experience, longevity does matter to me. And so, entry level, I understand. I also look, has it been a layoff? Have they, they moved? I mean, there's things that you need to consider, but if you're looking to make a lot of money or get like a management job or things like that, and you've been having a new job every year for no good reason except for career advancement, it's probably not going to be a person that's going to be in my top tier. Speaking badly about your employer, this is like a first date, right? Like, you don't go in and just start talking trash about your ex. Like, I don't want to hear that. I don't know you. I don't know anything. And so you just find another reason you left. Make up a positive spin on that. Find a different explanation. I've had people on their resume say public accounting sucks, that's why I left, or it was an awful environment. And okay, that might be true, but like, that's not what I want my first impression of you to be. So put that PR spin on it, and focus it on your career journey and your growth. Write it for the job. If it's a creative job, you can be more individualistic and use color and graphics and things like that. If it's for process improvement, it can be heavier on statistics. But if you're trying to be like a banker and you have like pink polka dots all the way down and like flowers and stuff, it's probably not gonna be the fit. So just keep that in mind. Do your research. I'm always impressed personally if you can find the hiring manager's name or my name and you put that like in the cover letter addressing it. It just means that you kind of went the extra mile and like effort. You can't always find that because just for security reasons, they don't put every person on their website. So that it's not an expectation, but it always just sticks out to me. And then my daughter just told me something, and if you in the cover letter, and again, I know it's time and it's boring and it's time consuming, but she just told me a trick that she was told to listen to podcasts of like the CEO if you really want to get in with the company, and try to like put something in the cover letter of why you want to work there, how his or her philosophy reflects what you want. And then I would say don't solely use AI. I'm currently looking at resumes and they all look the same. Like, they all start with, I'm excited to apply for, like, every single one. So make sure that even if you use AI, which is a great tool to start a cover letter for sure, it's going to save 75% of your time. But you should go back in, make sure that the words are yours. Take out like really big words. Take out that weird dash that they put in. Like, make it a shorter dash in the very least, right? But when I see something that's not totally AI, it's like a breath of fresh air. I'm like, oh, they can think, So just really don't just use AI, because it is very they're all looking the same. And then a cool thing that I think are the QR codes that I see, especially if it links to something different, like a blog post that you may have done on LinkedIn. A cool thing that we've seen lately is a YouTube resume. It was like a 2-minute, 30-second sales pitch almost, just an overall highlight in their own words of their experience. That was a big selling point for that person. So there's a couple things.
That's great. You covered everything from the theoretical to the practical. Thank you, Lisa. Well, I was gonna say I'm excited to shift to Krista, but I'll choose something different. Krista, this next question is for you. Uh, a lot of people struggle with nerves when they get into interviews. What are some ways that during that interview process, some simple practical ways that people can sound more confident, even if they are struggling with nerves as they go into that interview?
Okay, so I think there's just some really simple, basic things that you can do. What the biggest thing to me is the eye contact. Maintaining that eye contact, not looking down, not looking around, maintaining that eye contact, one, it builds trust in that relationship that you're forming there. And then slow down. Take a breath before you answer your questions. I actually have read another book and it talked about before you get up and speak, every time before you say a sentence, take a breath so that you slow down your breathing, and you sound more confident. Um, eliminate filler words. I use a lot of them, but eliminate filler words. Don't, just try to fill the lines. Just speak directly. Instead of saying, I think, say, I recommend. Or instead of saying, sorry, but just say, one moment, let me think about that. You just want to show that you are confident in the things that you know. And it doesn't hurt, especially, and sometimes it's hard, but especially on a virtual interview, smile when you talk. You would be amazed at how different you sound in comparison to just kind of looking and not smiling when you talk. It kind of gives you a little bit more air of confidence and actually makes you sit up and have a stronger posture when you're talking to someone. So that's the little things that I would say help build that confidence. You just, again, it's not, no one's expecting you to come in knowing everything, but they're expecting you to be confident in the things that you know.
That's great, Krista. I know one of the best pieces of advice I got was to stop saying sorry in emails because it makes you seem like you don't know, and all of us are here for a reason. So we should know, or at least we should seem like we know what we're doing. Well, thank you all for your initial insights as we talk about that first process. Let's say that the job offer has been made, right? Let's talk through how negotiations work. I know I wish I had this when I was younger because I just said, sure, that sounds great. A raise, that's perfect. I'll take it. Aaliyah, since you work so closely in compensation, I have a two-part question for you. So first, how can job seekers best evaluate themselves to propose a stronger compensation package? And then what guidance do you have for negotiating benefits, not just salary?
Okay. So I might nerd out a little bit, very passionate about this, but one of the biggest things that I think can help you understand where you should be in a compensation package or where you fall in the field you're in is using reputable salary data and filtering by role, location, and experience level. I hear probably once a week someone saying, I did my own research. This is the average for this role, but the average of the role may be taking account of the entire USA. They may not be whittling down to Kansas or Missouri. So it's so important to understand the data that you're speaking on. A website that I use often in my role is ONET, which is a free website to the public. It's backed by data from the Department of Labor, and that is a website you could go in, put a title, dental assistant, sales manager. It will pull data on that specific title. It'll tell you about skills you need for it, average, what's the word? Degree in it, soft skills, hard skills. And then you can whittle it down to show you what is the average salary and pay for a specific state. It'll show you the minimum, the max, and then it'll break it down by region. So if I was looking up police officer in Kansas City or in Missouri, it will tell me Kansas City, Missouri, St. Louis, Columbia, any other city in the area that's large enough. So I always think that's a great tool, and it's free. Websites like Glassdoor, maybe general Google searches, that I would be very careful on that data, because that data specifically from Glassdoor, that's self-reported. So it could range from, you could be looking up police officer, it could say 34 to 174, because it's self-reported. And it's often unverified, anonymous. It could be inaccurate, biased, outdated. So it's always good to make sure that your data has consistent methodology, which is why I prefer ONET, since it's using Department of Labor. There is also pay scale, but I believe you have to pay for it. So that's why I always recommend people to ONET. And then the second question, did you ask me the second question?
Yes, yeah. So the second question is, what guidance do you have for when folks are looking to negotiate their benefits, not just their salary?
Okay. With that, I will caution that often you'll find that retirement insurance and PTO may not be negotiable with larger companies. So what fringe benefits does the company offer? Is there an opportunity for you to look and see, do they offer tuition assistance? Do they offer professional development? Is that something you can negotiate if you're moving to that? If the opportunity was for you to move, is the moving incentive available? Do they offer bonuses? Flexible work schedule is a big thing too. A lot of times work from home is not a part of it, so maybe that's something you can negotiate. I find that talking about fringe benefits and seeing what works for you is better, since often I think you can only find that in small companies, maybe that you can maybe negotiate PTO. But I always highlight, look at the place you're interviewing, see what they offer, and then try to highlight what's wanting for you. If you're in school, do they offer some type of tuition assistance? Or, hey, I'm almost done with my professional certification. Is that something I could finish there and you can help assist me get that certification? So yeah.
That's great. And would you say generally with most companies, if you ask, hey, can I see the benefits package? Most companies, are they typically pretty open to sharing that?
Most companies, in my experience, are. And a lot of times when they give, in my experience, when they give you the offer, sometimes they'll send you the benefits package so you can read through it. And a lot of websites have it available.
Great. Cool. So I asked that purely to say never hurts to ask, right?
Never hurts to ask. The
Great.
worst they can say is no.
That's very true. That's
Mhm.
now sometimes that no might hurt a little more, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Krista, from the perspective of cultural competence, several of our audience members mentioned that their age, gender, ethnicity, or international status can create additional challenges during the negotiation process, whether that be due to social barriers or even biases that may be present. What guidance would you help these folks to help them overcome these challenges and maybe approach the process with more confidence?
Okay, so I think one, I would mirror some of what Aaliyah said. Do your research. I think the strongest tool you have is, of course, the internet. You don't want to take like I agree. I would hardly ever use Glassdoor because it's just never going to narrow it down to your direct experience, and you need a system that will actually help you look at what is my experience equal, even if your experience is not necessarily the same as that job. If you're wanting to move into a management role, but you've never been in management, but you can kind of tailor it to what your experience is. I think as you're talking through that negotiation part, though, that's the part it's a little tougher to say what is going to work for everyone, right? Everybody is not the same. We all come from different backgrounds. And sometimes the way that we negotiate is based on our background. I remember when I came out, I was like James. I just said, okay, what are they offering me? Well, that's pretty good. That's more than I make now. So okay, that's great. I think I would have approached it much differently now that I've been in HR for almost 20 years. I would definitely approach it differently. But I think you have to look at, do that research, understand what the numbers are, base your questions and assertiveness on what you find. So based on the market data, I'd like to talk about compensation. Don't be too assertive, because I think depending on where you are, sometimes that assertiveness comes across as overconfidence. There's a way to go about it where you you're being assertive, but yet not being overconfident. Is there room for movement on that salary? Is there room for more? I think also one of the things, one of my old companies, we used to, if we knew we couldn't move on compensation, we might offer an extra week of vacation for someone who asked the question. But if you don't ask, you'll never know. So you have to ask. And you also want to say, maybe you'll say, well, my expectation around salary, and I'm one of those HR people that hate to have salary conversations too late in the game. I like to have those conversations up front. and at least have an idea of what the person is expecting. And I tell people all the time, I actually just talked to a girl who's interviewing for her first HR job the other day. And I told her, I said, you have an expectation of what you'd like to make, but you want to make sure that's in line with what they pay. And in larger companies, it's going to be more than what I can pay in my small company. But making sure that you're saying things like, okay, here's what I expect. If you're open on salary, you can say I'm flexible, but give a little meaning with that. And when I say that, I mean, oh, I'm open on salary. If you tell me you're open on salary and I know I can start at 36,000, that's where I'm starting. That's exactly where I'm going to start at. I'm not going to start much higher. So give some parameters around it. I have an expectation based on my market research. This is what I would expect this role to pay, somewhere in between here. Depending on where you're at, like I'm in Texas, and we're not required to post the salary, but we post the salary for every job. Because again, I'm that person that I don't want to start a conversation with someone and they have an expectation that this job pays 100,000 and I know this job only pays 70,000. And the top that I can go is maybe 85. So I try to get that out early because you want to make sure you don't want to set yourself up. You fall in love with the job, and I've seen people do it. They fall in love with the job, the duties, they think it sounds great. And then they talk salary and they realize that this job pays about $30,000 less than what they thought. So you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, right? But you want to at least be able to have those conversations, be meaningful in those conversations. And I'm an HR, so I'm always going to say, and it's kind of how I operate. I always say I'm not going to look at the biases. This is the role. And this is what the duties are. And so I'm going to pay based on the duties of that role. I tell my managers all the time, we're writing a job description that is for a role, not for a person. So if you can have that mindset, and I'm not saying all hiring managers are going to think the same way that I do, but if you have that mindset, it makes it easier to have those conversations, and it can make the candidate be more confident in asking about salary and talking about the salary and the negotiation part of it. But I always say it doesn't hurt to ask. Like if you see a posting and you see the range is 75 to 85, it doesn't hurt to ask, is there any flexibility with that? Or maybe the benefits are so good that'll reduce that challenge of that base salary being a little lower. But always try to make sure that you're just approaching it in a way that is comfortable, confident, but assertive, but not too assertive, because you just don't. That's the only thing that I would say people will get. They'll think that there's that bias. Well, they think that they are getting this because they are this and they have this degree or they have that degree or they know this or they know that. No, I mean, it's a role. It's a job. And if you're able to do the job and you're confident in your skills, it doesn't hurt to ask for more money because you have the skill set that they need.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shift a little bit. So still in this vein of, got the job offer, trying to figure out if it's worth it, if it's going to fit everything you need. Lisa, my understanding is that from an organizational level, you are responsible for shaping culture and people strategy. So in your opinion, what are some of the hallmarks of a workplace culture where employees can feel confident advocating for themselves? So whether that be in interviews, evaluations, or promotion discussions. And then how can our job seekers better identify these markers, find those keys before they accept the job to determine if it fits within their core values?
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate because I've been here a long time and have been very involved in creating the culture. And so I know I come from a long time now of a place that I feel like is a good place to be, and not every place is like this. So I'll do my best. But we've worked very hard and intentionally to create a culture where people enjoy working here and can be their true, authentic, professional selves. Our efforts have contributed to a high trust environment where an honest conversation can be had at the right place and time, which is another thing I think is key. But from an organizational perspective, I think that a culture that empowers self-advocacy, is built on transparency, inclusion, and psychological safety. At the community foundations, we have cultural values of being welcoming, skillful, and agile. And we tell each candidate that up front, that these are the behaviors that we expect and what those mean to us and what that means that we expect from each employee. And what that I think that leads to ultimately is better communication, respect for diverse perspectives, and accountability in decision making. And those are just really important so that the employees come in feeling confident, they know the culture and what is expected of them. We try to normalize feedback. That's an ongoing conversation with my team, especially when they're on the call. But we always are talking about feedback, how to get better feedback. Do people really want honest feedback? How to deliver that feedback. But we do expect our managers to be checking in with their employees on a regular basis, and we do performance reviews twice a week. The best relation, or the statistically the most important relationship at work, is between a manager and the employee. And so we do a lot of work to try to make sure that those relationships are supported, so that trust can grow there, and then those conversations can happen, are more likely to happen. Growth opportunities are visible. I would probably say, and I'm just kind of pulling this dirty math here, but I would say about 75% of our promotions are 75 to 80% of promotions here are internal. We are committed to developing our staff. So them seeing, like other people and newer people seeing that there is growth opportunity, there is, that they know these people and they know what they have to offer, and that's respected, I think is important. And then equity, inclusion are intentional. Our policies and practices ensure that everybody has the same access to opportunities, and leaders are actively include diverse voices at the table. And then just ongoing management training, I think, is very important, internally and externally, to learn how to be better communicators and listeners, because I think they need to lead and show and make sure that that culture is supported. How job seekers can spot those markers before accepting an offer. I'm going to tell you the best way I think you can do it. People can also trick you. I've been tricked for sure at my employer before here, but I think the best thing that you can do is during the interview process, be observant. How are people moving around the organization? How do they look? How are they, just look. Ask about, in the interview, ask about feedback and development. You can ask questions like, how is the company support employee growth? How is success measured? How will I receive feedback? Ask about tenure, turnover rates, why the job is open. And all those could be indicators of why. You can ask why the interviewer, what you like best about your job, why you've stayed if they've stayed a long time, and just see what they say. And then just the interview process in itself, are they being respectful of your time? Do they provide clarity on the next steps? Because that oftentimes mirrors the culture. And then lastly, just trust your instincts. If conversations feel rushed or dismissive, or you're just not vibing, then it's probably a red flag for you moving forward there.
Love that the very last. Those are great questions to ask, by the way. So I hope if anyone is out there hunting now, you write those down. But I do love that the last one was trust your gut. I feel like that is always the key thing. So let's segue real quick to, we have a lot of folks in this room and online. In this room, I'm in a different room. I'm gonna guess in the UMKC room and online that might be taking a look at their career right now and saying, is it time to pivot? Am I looking for the next thing? So let's talk about promotions and pivots. I'm going to start with you, Krista. Let's say that an employee has positively contributed to their workplace culture and the success of the organization, and they want to ask about a promotion. But maybe there isn't a very apparent or obvious opportunity for that upward mobility. What advice do you have for the employee in that situation? And then what factors should people consider when they're deciding whether to stay and advocate for a promotion, or maybe they should start seeking for new opportunities?
So I would say in that situation, I think if you've contributed to the company and you're, a rock star in the role that you are in, I think there's always an opportunity for upward mobility, even if it doesn't seem clear. I recommend people talk to their managers, or maybe if in my structure where I'm at, we have some people who have managers, and then we have directors and AVPs. And I tell them, go to the head of your department, find out what opportunities are there that maybe they're not clearly defined right now, but maybe we can define those together. Especially, and this is where I say it comes into play, whether or not you're going to decide to stay or to go, especially if you're with a company that you love. If the company has all the things that you want and is aligned with your values, I would always advocate for myself to stay there, because you've already got what you're looking for in an organization, and you don't get to, as Lisa said, you won't get tricked by anybody else, because you know what this organization has. And it's always, some people say, it may say it's a safe spot. But what I will say, with the way that the current climate is, if you have an opportunity to promote in a company that you love and that you want to stay at, I always say go for it. You can always create your own path. It may take a little longer sometimes, but one of the things that I advocate, even with the employees where I work now, is tell me, you're a rock star here. Tell me, what's that next step look like for you? Those are conversations that I think, and I have them regularly with my team. What does your next step look like for you? Because as I'm thinking about expanding and doing things with my team, I want to know what they're looking for and make sure that what they're looking for is aligned with what I'm thinking that our department can grow to. So I've had, in my organization, we've had, probably that I can think of off the top of my head, about 10 people who have moved into roles that were not clearly defined. But because they spoke up and they were a rock star and they asked the questions about what can I do, well, they now have roles. I used to tell people, I don't like made up roles. I don't like made up jobs. But when you're, especially coming from a small organization, a lot of those roles are made up, because it's a small company and we don't necessarily have that defined path. But if you can start making that path and creating that path. Okay, I'm an accountant too. Well, I really want to be a senior accountant. Okay, what does that look like? What's the difference in those job duties, and how can we get there? And sometimes you have to be willing to, wait a little while, because sometimes it's about money. But asking and putting yourself out there is all. I'm going to always advocate for that, especially if it's a company you love. Now, if it's a company that you're not real crazy about, definitely go out and start shopping opportunities, and find what's important to you. And every now and then, and this is probably the worst advice I'll ever give you, every now and then it doesn't hurt to take that offer back to your current job and just say, hey, I got an offer and this is what I want to do. I hate when people do that to me because I want to keep them, but sometimes I know I can't. And if they can't, they won't. But it is one of those things that, if you're out there looking, or if somebody approaches you and it just falls into your lap, sometimes you have to take it back and say, okay, here's what I can get in the marketplace. Can we do something here? If not, then it's time to go.
Krista, I love that your whole theme is, if you don't ask, you don't receive. That seems to
Yeah, you
be
gotta ask. You gotta ask.
always got to ask. Aaliyah, many in our audience submitted questions about being passed over for promotions. From your perspective, what actually shows that someone is ready to take that next step, and how can they make that clear to the people who get to make that decision?
So with my experience, I first want to acknowledge, I know it sucks to be passed over. It feels, it's rejection. It hurts. Sometimes it can bubble up in anger. You could get really frustrated and you're like, why not me? I have learned through my own experience, the first thing I usually do is I go to my manager and I talk about, what can I improve on to get to that point where I'm ready for a promotion. And all the experience I've always had, it's your soft skills need to grow. I may be great technically at what I do, which is important at the beginning of the career, but your soft skills are really communication skills, leadership skills, emotional intelligence, problem solving. You may be the best employee at the world at what you do, but maybe your time management is terrible, where you get to where you need to be at the end, but it was bumpy getting there. And often when you see promotions, they want consistency. Another thing I see often is individuals get into a role and maybe a year later, they're expecting a promotion. that is a very common thing I see lately. And usually when I was a business partner, my manager at the time said, this job will take you at least 2 cycles to get used to what you need. The first cycle to get through the whole year, the second cycle to practice what you just did. And the third year, you're a master, or you should be an expert. Sometimes it's being in a role for a bit, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, to really get accustomed to what you're doing. So your manager can see consistency. I think often people don't realize the consistency really shows that you're ready for promotion. So I always advise, look at your soft skills, look at, are you good at communicating? Are you working well with leadership? Do you know how to talk to leadership? I think a lot of people don't realize that sometimes talking to your supervisor is different talking to, in my case, a dean. I could spend a lot of time with my supervisor, but a dean maybe make, the best advice I ever heard was, your dean makes $400 an hour. What are you going to do in that time to get the point across to him or her? And that's a skill to really learn how to communicate to upper level leadership. So I always say, make sure your soft skills are good, and communicate with your supervisor. See what you can improve on. If there's option to put on to improve, or is there feedback that you need to receive and maybe have a hard conversation on why something didn't happen?
That's great. Thank you. I do want to be mindful of time, but I also really want to hit, as someone who also went through a career pivot, I really want to make sure we hit on this. Lisa, you pivoted from for-profit to nonprofit. I did the opposite, but I understand it is a big change up. So this question is for you. For job seekers that are looking for a career change, or maybe even just exploring the possibility, how can they translate their current skills in a way that a hiring manager can read that and it will resonate with them in that role?
So I think AI could be helpful for this, really, to really drill down, especially if it's a particular job or career, and really to analyze your current career with the new career or workplace that you want to be in. But make sure you rewrite it in your own words. But I think that most business skills are transferable, in my opinion. However, you're just being measured against an unknown candidate pool, and you're not sure, what that candidate pool looks like, or the culture of the organization and how they value the skills that they're looking for. So first, I would ensure that you yourself have a deep understanding and agreement of your education and experience, and that you can translate that into a specific responsibility that they're looking for in this new role or career or space. So if you're not sure, then you're not going to be able to sell that. So you want to be confident, not cocky when you're writing or hopefully interviewing as to how those skills are transferable. Working in fast food, you have gained cash handling, extraordinary customer service skills, conflict resolution, dependability, flexibility, being able to handle fast-paced situations, like working and going to school. Like I know that you've proven that you can multitask, prioritize, and follow through. So really just kind of drilling down and not taking surface level and dismissing those, but really thinking about what those things can go to another place. Then explain that in a cover letter is the best way to connect those dots. If you want to change entire fields, education is always helpful. You can access free certifications through Udemy and LinkedIn with your library card through Mid-Continent Library. So you don't have to pay for those at all. Just go and get certified. I know that other Microsoft Learning has free things too if you want to learn that. Additionally, you can always go back to school if you need a totally different field or enhanced skill set. And I would try to look for an employer that pays for that or contributes to that. There's a company that you admire, just get in where you can. And like Krista was saying, hopefully you can grow with the company. Even if you have to take a small step back in the beginning, you may be able to go further once they know you and know your abilities and you've proven that you're a good employer. employee. And then networking, connecting with people in the community and the field that you want to grow in is the quickest way to advance, in my opinion. That old, it's not who you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know, I think is true. And that doesn't mean random LinkedIn connections. It's sometimes they work, but overall, the people that will go the extra mile for you are people that you actually know. So reach out, ask somebody to go to coffee, ask for advice, ask for mentorship. I mean, a lot of executives and professionals love that stuff. So just try. I know it's awkward, but just ask, and just see what happens.
That is great. Thank you, Lisa. A lot of really great actions there that people can take. So we had a lot of great discussion, and there's so much more that we can talk about. But within the last couple of minutes left, I would love to see if there's any Q&A from the audience. And I believe Jinlin Myers, the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations, who's with us on the call and in the room at UMKC, is going to help us if there's any, to see if there's any Q&A up from the audience.
Hi, everyone. So feel free to unmute yourself or submit a question to the chat and I can ask it for you. But we'll just take these last few minutes just to answer any burning questions that perhaps weren't already covered in today's session.
I do have a question. So this is to pertain to Krista. She mentioned something about the roles and, asking for promotions, but she talked about job descriptions, saying job descriptions are for the role, not for the people. So I really, really like that. And I just want to make sure I'm recording it right. Is that correct?
That's correct. When they're writing that job description, you can always think this person is this, this, and this, but really what you want is what does this role have? And as you think about wanting to promote, you always want to make sure you include kind of those things that will help you grow within that role.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any questions online? Anyone want to unmute? Or again, you can always send them to Jinlin in the chat and she can ask us. No, not seeing anything. Jinlin, are you anything on your end?
Nope, nothing so far.
Okay. Well, hey, I know it'll be a miracle if I can end an event on time. I probably won't with 2 minutes left. But first off, I want to thank you all. Thank you, Krista, Lisa, Leah, for the thoughtful and honest insights today. For everyone that's joining us, it's so important to attend things like this and get insight from folks like these three who are truly leading in the industry. And they are the ones making the decisions. They are the ones who can actually give you insights on what's happening. So I hope everyone really enjoyed the conversation today. And also thanks to everyone who submitted questions in advance and joined us for the conversation. Knowing your worth is definitely something that we have to build over time. It takes tools and resources, and hopefully some of those tools that we gave you today can help you and maybe even give you a little inspiration to take that next step. I will make one last plug as the chair of GOLD, which is the Graduates of the Last Decade. We have a robust group. We meet once a quarter, and we are responsible for helping to put on professional development events like this, working with groups both on campus and alumni. So if this is something that you're interested in, or maybe you're looking for some new networking to build, this is a great group to do that with. If you have interest at all, you can always reach out to alumni@umkc.edu. But aside from that, thank you all again for being here, and we'll see you at the next alumni event.
Thanks, James. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.